And we are live. And Aston, I believe, is falling asleep now, which is fantastic.
I hope so.
But it's a little uncertain, so we may get some meows. I will apologize with that. Okay, we're waiting for a few people to come in, but I think we can start. Darling, is there any
Aston,
Uh-oh.
lay down.
Is there any interesting news in our own personal lives?
No.
We're so boring. We did go out today. We went out to a few places, and one of the places we went to was a Pavilions grocery store in Burbank, California.
Yep. That's
And I did not wear my mask anywhere we went, and we got no comments, no looks, nothing.
Well, I saw looks.
Oh, you saw looks? Well, what I thought was interesting was that there was literally nobody else in the pavilions maskless. Everybody had a mask on.
Yeah.
Because in California, compliance is kind of like standard. Nobody really wants to cause any kind of trouble or confront anybody, I think, by not wearing a mask. People are kind of intimidated and scared by the left-wing mob. But I went in, no mask, and spent, I don't know, half an hour there. Nobody said anything. You said we had looks, but I think it's because I'm very handsome.
Yeah, 100%. I think I was 100% sure that cashier is gonna say something.
Yeah, and he didn't.
Something like, if you're not gonna put your mask on, I'm not gonna sell your crap.
I thought he might say that too.
But he actually was kinda.
He was like joking around with us.
He
and
was
stuff.
joking around and like kind of fun. So I think he was like, "Oh, thank God, some people are."
Yeah. Well, I think that the assumption now is that if you're going around without a mask, you've been vaccinated, which is not true in my case.
When you know what I noticed when we entered the store, I did not see any signs like put your mask.
Sorry,
I
guys.
did not see any like hand sanitizing stations. It disappeared. I don't see it anymore. Did you
I
notice
saw
that?
hand sanitizer in the office of the attorney that we went to. He had all that stuff right in front of us on the little table there.
I mean the pavilions.
I know. I'm
Yeah.
I'm just saying that it's still there in some places, but you may be right. I didn't notice it in the pavilions. But so the thing is, we don't go to the grocery store that much. We usually get Instacart so that we don't have to, deal with the riffraff, because we live in a really sketchy area of LA, and just going around the grocery store is like, I mean, the grocery store down here, the Ralph's down here in downtown, there's always a urine stench homeless person walking around the aisles every single time. If you want to smell urine, go into a grocery store in downtown LA. It's awful. And this is all because of the policies of the left-wing government here. But the one good thing is that even in crazy left-wing LA, where everybody's still wearing the stupid masks, and we do have things opening up. I mean, apparently we're allowed to go into the gym now, although obviously I haven't, but I really want to. Gyms are open, and what else is open?
Well, Six Flags open. I want to go there.
Oh, Six Flags open. Okay, that's awesome. And you can go to restaurants indoors now. Movie theaters are open. I didn't even know that. Okay, that's great. Well, let's go watch a movie.
I don't like movie theaters.
Hey, everybody. A taco bag that said, "Are you pregnant yet?" It's funny. There are some like white nationalist types that, online that I've interacted
Preggers.
with. Preggers means pregnant.
Really?
Yeah. And they insist that we have babies as soon as possible in order to sort of like help the white race from dying off, because they think that the white race is going to die off. And I'm like, I understand your thinking there, but like, I'm not going to have a kid because some random white nationalist wants me to have a kid. It's like, thanks, but like, we can figure this out for ourselves, guys. I think pressuring people to have children because of like white nationalist views is like really cringy, I mean, even if you think because statistically speaking, apparently this idea is that white people are going to die off because we have less than 2 kids for every 2 people that are alive. So we're like depopulating, whereas other races are like expanding massively. You know what somebody recommended to combat that is less about forcing or encouraging white people to have more children, and more about just making the rest of the world super rich. Because what happens is when you get really, really rich, you become a lot more selfish, and you want to enjoy your life. And there's so many other things to do that are fun and enjoyable that you don't want to have kids. Now, that's not necessarily true in our case. We actually have a plan to have children, but we want to get a house first. So that's kind of our goal. When we have enough money to buy a house, then we'll have kids. I don't know if I would say kids shouldn't grow up in apartments. I think it's fine. You grew up in an apartment in Russia. You turned out good.
Well, yeah.
I've met many people that grew up in apartments that grew up fine.
Apartment was like really tiny. It was like it's so tiny. It was like a studio or something.
Yeah.
It wasn't even 1 bedroom. I mean, in Russia, it considered 1 bedroom. Here, it's studio.
Yeah. Well, I guess the point I'm trying to make is I grew up in a house, in a nice house with 2 brothers and a sister, and in Oregon, it was a 3-story house. We had a basement. Oh no, it was just a 2-story house. We had several houses, but that was kind of the one that I grew up in my childhood, and 2-story house, and it was just an amazing experience. We had a beautiful yard outside. We had neighbors to play with, and like it was a nice experience. And I don't want to have my kid raised in a city in a tiny apartment. It's a fine way to grow up, I guess, but I didn't grow up that way.
You can definitely raise a kid in an apartment, but I would like to have. It's like not my apartment; it's rent. I would like to own.
Yeah, well, we're gonna own a house now.
Because even if I grew up in a tiny studio, we owned that studio. It was our flat, you know.
So talking about having babies and owning houses and things like that, I'd like to take a moment before we get into the news to talk a little bit about crypto. I wish I had like a little stinger thing that could be like crypto, toxic masculinity, but I haven't made one of those. But darling, Valeria Downing, is our crypto expert here at Toxic Masculinity. She does all the investment in crypto, and we've been talking a lot about Dogecoin lately. Dogecoin is on this epic rise to glory. What they're saying, it's shooting to the moon is the common expression.
They mean $1.
To the moon is $1, but it started at like
I heard like
pennies.
some people says $10. I was like, guys.
No. $1 is the goal. $1 is the goal. So here's what we've discussed today, and I think it's a pretty good thing to tell you guys about. We're still invested in our Dogecoin. Valeria took some of it out at, I think, something like 40 cents or something like that. It's still at 40 cents now.
I took my initial investment there, which is, I sold at 39 cents. And
we sold it at 40 and we reinvested 5,000 at 23 or something
26.
like that? Because there was a dip.
Yes.
So we're selling high, buying low, and but not with everything. She plays around with a little bit of the money.
No, for me, I feel safer if I took my initial money and just left profit there, so I won't lose anything if it's just gonna be like done.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a risk. I mean, you take a risk, of course you take a risk, but in Russia we have this expression: the person who doesn't take a risk don't drink champagne. So you take a risk.
Is that really an expression in Russia?
100%.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, tell your friends and family.
Who doesn't risk don't drink champagne.
Those who do not risk do not drink champagne. And then somebody brings out a bottle of cheap sparkling wine and says, "Au contraire, mon frère." All right, so okay, so what are we doing here? We're talking about Doge. So Valeria and I have a plan here because we think everybody believes it's going to go to $1, and it probably will at some point. But we also suspect that people are going to set automatic sales at like 90 cents, 95 cents, maybe even lower. So to be very conservative, economically, financially conservative, we're probably going to sell out at something like 69, something like that, 69 cents. We haven't decided yet. Maybe 75, maybe 70.
Maybe I can sell 30% at 69
And save leave some of the rest of it in.
and list the rest of it.
Because this is the thing about putting money into such a risky investment. You can get a huge return, but you have to sell out before the dip. If you sell out after the dip, you lose everything. So we want to be careful and we want to be conservative. And so we're going to sell out everything before it hits 90, 95, 100. People who wait till it gets that high, they could end up hitting a pretty severe dip before they get there, because a lot of people are going to want to sell out before it hits $1, because I think a lot of people think that once it hits $1, everybody's going to sell. Anyway, so that's our advice. If you do jump into the Dogecoin thing, which I'm not telling you whether you should or should not do, but we think there still is a huge amount of growth for Doge, although it's always a risk, guys. The dip could happen today. I mean, there could be a drop today, and we could lose everything that we've put into it. Mm-hmm. So that's always the risk, but we do suspect that there's a lot of growth there. And I mean, if you have some money to risk, again, don't put in any money that you aren't willing to lose. Don't put in any money that you're not willing to lose. If you can afford to lose $100, $1,000, $5,000, put it in there, see what you can do with it. Because at this point, you're not going to be making as much as you made a week ago, obviously, but you can still probably double your money, something like that. Maybe. Of course, you could lose it. So I don't want to, we're not expert traders, but we're looking at the crypto market and thinking about what's going to happen.
If you want to play safe, invest in Ethereum.
Yeah, and that's where I was going to go to next.
It's going to give better percentage than Bitcoin, but it's the second safest crypto in my opinion.
It's going up faster than Bitcoin. Bitcoin's the safest. But Valeria mentioned something to me that's quite interesting today, which is that there's a guy that's heavily invested in Ethereum. He's heavily invested, or
no. He's a millionaire on some crypto. He's like a crypto guy. I'm not sure what exactly.
Somehow this guy's associated with cryptocurrency, but he's specifically associated with Ethereum.
No, not Ethereum.
I thought you said
just
he was.
Crypto general.
Talking about the Biden guy?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you. Why are you going to invest in Ethereum? If you specifically said there's this guy that Biden has.
There was two news that I said, and you compare those two.
I combine them. Yeah.
Yeah, combine.
Well, be clear, woman. I will fight you. Look at that. The stare of death. Like she's just like, bring it on. That's what those eyes tell me. But anyway, well, the point is that if you want to invest in crypto, it's probably a safe bet at the moment, because did you say he's in the Biden administration? Can you find his name quickly?
No, I'll try to later. If
okay.
You want
Anyway,
to.
but there's a guy. He's in the Biden administration.
No, he's a Biden sponsor.
He's a big Biden donor. And you know how these leftists want to always favor each other and their friends, and they're all cronies, and it's all, corrupt and horrible. So if there's a big crypto guy that he's got Biden in his pocket, you can be sure crypto is going to do well in the next year or so. And then also
the Ethereum is good because there has been some approval in Canada in Ethereum.
So there's been an approval of Ethereum in Canada. They're going to deal with what do you call them, gas prices, right? Which is what they call the fees, because Ethereum is one of has some of the biggest fees of any crypto. But they're going to fix that, and then
in July,
we suspect that crypto is going.
I hope they will fix it.
We suspect specifically Ethereum is going to go up. So we
Everyone says it will
we're not
go
experts.
10K this year.
From
2200.
From 10K to 22. From 2200 to 10K. So it's going to go up like
4 times.
Valeria thinks 5 times, something like that.
4 times at least.
Yeah, 4 times. Sorry, 4 point whatever it is. 4.5 times. She thinks it's going to go up. So if you want to make 4.5 times your money, and you don't mind risking it in crypto, and you're not scared of crypto, go ahead and throw in. Daniel J. Corica says, if current riots are called protests, then 1-6, January 6th, was a backyard barbecue block party. I'm on overtime, so here is some money Free the kitty. He's free. He's sitting there sleeping. Oh, I think he's just seen a fly or something. He's just woken up. It's not good. But he was sleeping nicely a second ago. But yeah, I think at the moment, the reason I'm encouraging people to go into crypto is because I do think it's a good way to make money right now.
It's future. 100%.
Yeah, we're still sort of in the sort of infancy of crypto right now. I mean, it's still not accepted at stores and stuff like that, regular stores. I think within the next 5 years.
There's a petition on petition.org or something that people ask Amazon to accept Dogecoin as a payment.
That's hilarious. But I do think within the next 5 years or so, Amazon's going to start accepting crypto. As soon as that happens, crypto is going to blow.
If not earlier.
Flipping up. Bitcoin's probably what they'll accept. It might be Ethereum, but probably Bitcoin. What do you think? Oh, yeah. Well, I said within the next 5 years. You can't get earlier than within. I didn't say in 5. I said exactly in 5 years. No, I think that they will start accepting it. I think a lot of these online retailers will start accepting it first, and then you're probably going to get it to where you can get like a crypto credit card and pay at your local stores with crypto. That's my guess. So that'll happen, I think, probably within the next 5 years. When that happens, that'll be common currency, and I mean, it's just going to blow the whole market up. So, again, it's the future. What else was I going to say? Ethereum, Bitcoin, Doge. Those are the three kind of big ones that people are talking about right now. But there's tons of what they call altcoins. But yeah, again, don't invest in anything that you can't afford to lose at the moment, because all these, especially Dogecoin is particularly volatile. If you invest in Ethereum or you invest in Bitcoin, it's much safer. They're pretty stable. Oh, that was the other thing I was going to say. Mm-hmm. So it's the way the economy is going is a little bit treacherous. People think stock markets are going up. People are very optimistic that the stock market's going to remain solid, but it's very sketchy at the moment because of Joe Biden's policies, right? Joe Biden's policies are making everything a little unstable. Mm-hmm. He's not Donald Trump. He doesn't know what he's doing. I mean, when I say Joe Biden, of course, I mean all Joe Biden's people, the puppeteers that are running the system. They don't really know what they're doing. They're probably going to, and they're devaluing the dollar right now. We've got inflation. We don't have hyperinflation. We don't have anything like treacherous like that just yet. But we do have some inflation going on. And as the dollar's devalued, every other currency compared to the dollar is increased in value. And so like if you have one Bitcoin, which I think is something like $30,000. Hello?
So I'm just looking at the Russian ruble compared to dollar.
Is it doing well?
I need to send some money to my mom.
Oh, the Russian ruble is doing terrible.
Terrible.
Oh, well, that's okay. I mean, that's good for us, I guess. But
it's awesome for me.
Yeah, it's great for us. Yeah, let's send some money to your mom. Let's buy some rubles. I love my rubles. Yeah. If the dollar, let's say, loses half its value, and you have a single Bitcoin, which is, what is it, like 33,000 or something like that? I don't remember. Something like $30,000. And if the dollar loses half its value, then suddenly your Bitcoin is worth $60,000, right? So you double your money just because of, it's just because of the relationship between the two currencies. So, it's a safe place to put your money. I think at the moment, Bitcoin and Ethereum, I know they sound scary, but I think they're actually a fairly conservative place to put your money. Mm-hmm. Doge is dodgy. Doge is dodgy. I would be careful about Doge, but it is the fastest way to make money right now, just for like the next few days. How long do you think Doge is going to keep going up?
No idea.
It's hard to say. You got to pay attention to it. Maybe you can get it through Robinhood app, or you can
Don't buy anything on Robinhood.
It's better to use the other systems to look it up. Anyway, I'm done talking about crypto, but I do think it's something that people should pay attention to and look into and potentially invest in. All right, shall we start the news, darling?
Yeah.
All right, you are going to be blown out here in a second. You want me to fix that?
Yep. Okay. The first news is remove Maxine Waters' formal resolution to be introduced to Congress.
Right. So Maxine Waters, as you guys probably know, was encouraging the riots. And in fact, I may do a video, if I can get enough footage together, of all the times Maxine Waters encouraged people to riot and commit acts of violence. And leftists will say, she wasn't encouraging violence. She was encouraging peaceful protests. But the funny thing is, she's never said peacefully protest. She's never said be peaceful. She's never said protest. She's always said things like, harass people and be aggressive and, things like, she's used words like that. And so, no, she's not encouraged peaceful protest. She's encouraged violence. That is it, and that is all. I mean, you can infer different things from her expressions, but there's a pattern here. And so I think it's fairly obvious that she is encouraging violence. Resolution to... So this is from Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is basically hated by a lot of the people in Congress, the leftists and the leftist media. They all hate her. They think she's a QAnon lunatic. I like Marjorie Taylor Greene, despite the fact that I don't agree with all the things she's said in the past. I think her heart's in the right place. I think she's great. So let's have a look here. Resolution to expel Maxine Waters from Congress to be introduced by Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene says type of message. Says type of message. I don't know what that means.
I think I have to interrupt you.
Okay, interrupt me.
There's a super chat from SMYLESG.
All right, go for it. What is it?
Smiles G. Will this super chat buy me an intro?
An intro? What does that mean? An introduction? All right. I don't know what that means.
What do you
Will
mean?
this super chat buy me an intro?
You forgot the intro.
Oh, I forgot the intro.
Oh,
I forgot the intro. Okay, yes. Thank you. Smiles G. I don't know what that means. All right, let's do the intro. Toxic masculinity. All right. We are Toxic Masculinity, the least professional show on YouTube. Obviously, Valeria. I'm toxic. Valeria is masculine. God, I can't even get that right. How many times have I said that? I can't get it right. I'm toxic. She's masculine. Together, we are Toxic Masculinity. All right, let's get on with this story. California Representative Maxine Waters has made a career of making inflammatory statements that many believe are an incitement of violence. Because see, here's the thing. The bar has been lowered so much. Like, I think conservatives used to just ignore Maxine Waters. Obviously, what she did was terrible. But, like, she's such an effing idiot that I think conservatives kind of, like, felt bad for her. Like, okay, she's so dumb that that maybe she doesn't realize what she's doing. And so people just didn't say anything about it. But now that they have accused Donald Trump of inciting an insurrection, even though he definitely did not, I think that they've changed the bar, the level of, what people are allowed to do as politicians now, right? Because if they're going to go after Trump for inciting an insurrection, which he absolutely, very obviously did not do, then Maxine Waters, who has intentionally incited violence over decades, she needs to be looked at much more seriously. If they're going to take us this seriously, or they're not even taking us seriously, they're accusing of things we didn't do, but they're things that they actually do. So I've talked about this in previous videos, like, we can't be so nice to Democrats anymore. We've been so nice to Democrats. Like, Maxine Waters did this in 1992 during the LA riots. She basically came out and said everybody who's rioting has a total right to be angry. They have a total right to be angry. Did she say people have to stop rioting and stop burning places down and stop murdering people? No. She didn't say anything like that. Did she say people need to stop being violent? She said, no, of course she didn't. She said, no, people have a right to be angry. She said, people want me to come out here and say to stop rioting. She says, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that people need to calm down and relax. She's like, this is an injustice. Rodney King was beaten and those police need to go to prison and all this stuff. And she's like, this is terrible injustice and people have a right to be angry. Which sort of suggested that she thought that people had a right to go around rioting, burning places down, murdering people. I mean, the woman is a vicious, horrible woman. The fact that she keeps being elected is astonishing to me. We know a guy named Joe Collins. He lives out here in L.A., and he was running for Maxine Waters' district for her position in Congress. He lost because her district is, like, crazy. But, like, he lives in that district. She doesn't even live in the district. She has, like, a mansion outside of it. he did a
saw
kind
the
of he
video.
did a kind of viral video where he went around walking past her mansion and was like, "This is where Maxine Waters lives. It's not in our district." He's like, "I do live in our district." He's like, "Elect me." We just ran into him the other day, actually, at a party. I don't know him super well. We just run into each other from time to time at like events of conservatives in LA. But I mean, as much as I've interacted with him, I love him. He's got a beautiful wife, a bunch of cute little kids, and seems like a good man. I don't know how conservative he is. He was in the military, but man, I think he'd be about 1,000 times better than Maxine Waters. I'd love to get him in Congress. Hopefully he wouldn't disappoint us when he gets in there. But no, I think he's going to be a heck of a lot better than Maxine Waters, no matter what. But yeah, it would be nice to get him in there. I think he still wants that seat. And maybe it'll happen if we can get her pushed out of Congress through a resolution. I don't think it's going to happen, though, because, Democrats control Congress. But let's have a look here. On Saturday, she told Black Lives Matter protesters that they need to be more confrontational if Derek Chauvin is not convicted of murder in the George Floyd killing trial. And on Sunday, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene said that she would introduce legislation to boot Representative Waters from Congress. Very soon, I'll be introducing a resolution to expel Maxine Waters from Congress for her continual incitement of violence, on innocent American people. Representative Waters is a danger to our society, she said. I mean, I agree with this. I 100% agree with this because she's what you call like a race baiter, right? Mm-hmm. So she'll so what this term means is, how like when you go fishing, the worm that you put on the end of the hook, that's called bait, right? Okay. And we use bait to get fish attracted to that hook, right? Or if you set a trap for an animal, the meat that you put in that they want to go try to eat, that's bait, right? So race baiting is basically just putting out these comments and ideas for people that will think, oh yeah, this is a provocative racial statement, saying white people are racist and stuff like that, and like playing up these incidents so that people will become more racist and they'll be attracted by this race language and stuff like this. Search for an attempted armed robbery suspect. Police advise the suspect was last seen in Westlake. Open for details. We get messages like this like 20 times a day.
I don't.
Yesterday, yeah, you deleted that app. But like yesterday, it was like, man shot twice. Man walking around with a machete. Like the craziest stuff. Downtown LA is crazy, you guys. We gotta get the hell out of here.
When I was driving home, there was like 2 arrests. One on this side of the street.
Yes.
Second was like today.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant last night. Okay, this is today, right?
Today.
Because last night there was a bunch of somebody got arrested.
2 arrests.
Yeah, just today. That's great. Good old Los Angeles. If you want to move somewhere, if you want to be Batman, move to downtown LA. You'll be tackling a lot of homeless people. But all right, let's have a look here. Okay, so and then she said after traveling across state lines to incite riots, her orders recorded on video last night at the Brooklyn Center directly led to more violence at a drive-by shooting on National Guardsmen in Minnesota earlier this morning. So I'm not 100% sure that can be attributed to Maxine Waters, although it's a good possibility that that's true. There's a good possibility that what Maxine Waters said specifically and directly influenced the people who committed these acts of violence after she said this. But there's no proof of that, so I don't know if you can just... I wouldn't simply... I think it's a little irresponsible to say that what she said certainly did influence it. I would say it likely influenced it or possibly influenced it. That's just me trying to be a responsible person. All right, let's see here. Yeah, that's one of the few times we're not saying this kind of thing. We're not tempering what we're saying, to be nice to the YouTube people. I genuinely think that's a more responsible way of talking about this kind of stuff. Let's see here. As a sitting U.S. Congresswoman, Maxine Waters threatened a jury demanding a guilty verdict and threatened violence if Chauvin is found not guilty. This is an absolute abuse. This is also an abuse of power. God, I mean, she's on fire. All these things are absolutely right. We need to... Maxine Waters is basically saying, you need to terrorize Minnesota if we don't get what we want. I mean, that's all... Like, to me, they need to declare a mistrial. From that alone, they need to declare a mistrial. You can't have a sitting member of Congress sitting there like demanding that somebody be found guilty. It's like he's guilty or not guilty depending on the case and what's presented. There's going to be a lot of Chauvin stuff today, by the way, guys. Well, two things. The Minnesota National Guard was targeted in a drive-by shooting in Minneapolis just hours after California Representative Maxine Waters said that Black Lives Matter needs to be more confrontational. The National Guard said that the members were, along with local police, providing neighborhood security near Penn and Broadway Avenue when people in an SUV opened fire on them. The Minnesota National Guard said on its website, "Thank God no National Guard members were injured in the shooting." I'm not going to read through this whole article because we've talked a lot about this, but yeah, I think you guys are all basically on the same page as us. Maxine Waters is a disgrace. She's an old coot. She's incredibly dangerous to our society at the moment. I mean, think about it like this. If there was like a serious problem with white supremacy, which there isn't, obviously, in America right now, there has been in the past, like, say like the 1930s or something like that. I don't really know when the Ku Klux Klan was particularly active or dangerous, but it's been a while. It's been a while. But let's say there was a bunch of lynchings of black people by white supremacists, something like that. And if a sitting member of Congress came out and said, "You guys need to be more violent," I think that person would be very quickly condemned by everybody. But Maxine Waters comes out and basically says, all you black people rioting, you need to be more, what'd she say? Not more aggressive. What's the word she used? More
Awesome.
I wish she'd said you need to be more awesome. Confrontational. You got to remember these things, sweetie. My memory's crap.
My English is crap.
You need to be more confrontational. If conservatives are always thinking about how leftists would perceive it the other way around because they get away with so much. They just forgive anything. But they don't just forgive things. They're like blind to the fact that they are so unbelievably awful. They don't realize how vicious and terrible they are. And, they just think like, oh, I don't understand what Maxine Waters said was perfectly fine because white people are bad and black people are good. Everybody knows that. Like, that's the way they think. I mean, they're legit crazy. Leftists have a distorted view of the world that I think is sort of akin to somebody who is like, legitimate, like has like legitimate paranoia or schizophrenia or something like this, where they genuinely think, things are happening that aren't, the CIA are listening to me inside my Coke, stuff like that. I mean, that's how the left is. It's so weird because they think about like conservatives always get a bad rap for having like being conspiracy theorists. But most of the conspiracy theories that the mainstream conservatives believe end up being true. Almost all of them end up being true. And the ones that like the fringe people believe, like leftists eat babies and stuff like that, the fringe right, the stuff that they believe, like that's an incredibly small group of fringe conservatives that believe the baby eating and some of the weirder stuff. But the left likes to put all of that on all conservatives, and it's just not true. Most conservatives don't believe the weird, super conspiracy theory stuff. But on the other hand, on the other side, on the left, there is no fringe left. There is no fringe left believing weird conspiracy theories. The whole left believes the conspiracy theories. The whole left believed that Trump was colluding with Russia. In fact, they're still coming out with new stuff now that is absolute nonsense. That, in fact, we now have new proof that Trump was colluding with Russia. Okay, you don't. It's a lie. It's just, excuse me. It's just like the lie about Sicknick, right? They were like, Officer Sicknick was bludgeoned to death with a fire extinguisher. That word bludgeoned, what a great word, right? I mean, he obviously was never hit with a fire extinguisher at all, so I don't think I'm being disrespectful to him, But they were saying he was bludgeoned to death with a fire extinguisher. He wasn't bludgeoned. He was never even hit with a fire extinguisher. He had some kind of stroke or something like that. It's unclear exactly what happened, but he had some kind of medical issue. And they're just lying. They're saying, white supremacists are who are emboldened by Donald Trump are causing all kinds of crimes against Asians. These are all essentially conspiracy theories. They're basically obvious lies that have nothing to do with the reality. Oh, Trump's Ukraine phone call, clearly a lie. You know, what's his name? Schiff. Adam Schiff comes out and he says, Trump basically bullied him like a mafia boss and said, like, if you don't do what I'm telling you to do, you're not going to get paid. And you know what I'm telling you, got to make up dirt on Joe Biden. He like made up some like weird scripted thing. And, you know, that got criticized even by people on the left. It was so egregious. But the problem with stuff like that is that if Adam Schiff comes out and says that, even if somebody on CNN says, well, Trump didn't actually say that in the phone call, you're still going to get leftists, voters, left-wing voters who believe that Trump said that, or that was Trump's, you know, intention because, well, Adam Schiff says it must be true. That's how unbelievably irresponsible these people are. They're all conspiracy theorists. Like, all the politicians are conspiracy theorists, all the media is conspiracy theorists, and all the leftist voters buy into the conspiracy theory. So it's not like a fringe part of the left that believes these conspiracy theories. It's the left, right? It's what we started calling recently Blue Anon, although that didn't really, I don't think that caught on as a big deal. But I like the idea of calling it Blue Anon because they do have all these crazy conspiracy theories and they're not fringe. They're the mainstream of the left. They believe conspiracy theories like as a standard part of their left-wing philosophy. You know, that black men are being killed by the thousands by cops every year. It's just not true. Like the unarmed black men being killed by cops narrative is completely fictional. It's a conspiracy theory. And we have to start calling it that because they're calling a lot of our stuff conspiracy theories, which aren't. And yet they're constantly spewing conspiracy theories every single day, all day. All right, darling.
Yes.
That took a little bit longer than I thought because I went on a bit of a tangent. But we are done with that story. Let's move on to the next one.
Biden accidentally uses the word crisis.
Yeah. Okay. So this is quite fun. We have a video for you guys here. Let's go ahead and watch Biden call the situation on the border a crisis. Let's see here.
Problem was that the refugee was working on crisis that ended up on the border with young people. We couldn't do two things at once now. Now an increased amount.
Oh boy, President Joe Biden finally saying that there's a crisis at the southern U.S. border as a new poll reveals a growing number of Americans see illegal immigration as a very big problem.
Okay, so we saw there he used the word crisis, but so here's what they're saying now. Here's what like Psaki is saying. She's saying, "Oh no, he didn't mean that the border surge in immigrants is a crisis. What he said was there's a crisis because the things in South America and Central America are so bad that people want to come up here. That's the crisis. Yeah, that's it. So the crisis is the bad living conditions that are forcing them to come up here. That's the crisis. Okay, that's it. So they just made up, like, obviously they went into crisis mode over in D.C. and they all went around and said, okay, how do we fix this? How do we fix this? And then Psaki just like came out with this absolute rubbish. Everybody knows it's a crisis. It's obviously a crisis. The idea that they're still pretending that it's just like, it's just a situation. You know, it's good. What we're doing is good. It's a good thing. Letting all these illegal immigrants into America is a good thing. So anyway, so the headline here, this is from Fox News. Psaki walks back Biden's border crisis comments, acknowledging crisis in Central America. So she said there is a crisis in Central America, but it's not at the U.S. border. When Joe Biden referred to the immigration-related crisis over the weekend, he was not referring to migrants crossing the southern border, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki insisted to reporters on Monday. The Biden administration had resisted using the term crisis to describe the number of migrants crossing the border in record numbers, including many unaccompanied children, and 172,000 migrant encounters in March alone. The problem with the whole, the reason I think that it should be considered a crisis is because it's something that the Border Patrol doesn't have the capacity to deal with. Mm-hmm. It's something that's being used by the cartels to bring more drugs in and guns and crime and whatever it is that they want. You okay? You surviving
It's
there?
really bright.
You don't have to look at me. You can look away. You want sunglasses?
Am I not too bright?
Do you want sunglasses? Look,
No, I'm
seriously.
good.
No, go on. Get some. I'll put it on me.
No, am I? No.
It's on me.
Am
Go.
I not?
Go
Am
get
I
yours.
not too bright?
No, you're fine. You look good. You're
Okay.
glowing.
It's fine. I'll survive.
But obviously, like, there's a lot of like sexual assault that happens when people are trying to be trafficked from Mexico into the United States. A lot of these human traffickers are sexually abusing the people they're bringing over. Some of them children.
Yeah.
A lot of them children. It's pretty nasty. I mean, it is very obviously a crisis, and this is a crisis that was created by Biden encouraging people to come through the border. And it's interesting. The other day, they put a cap on. Trump had a cap, I think, of like 15,000 for the year or something like that. Illegal immigrants to like let in. I don't remember. I don't know what the cap situation was. I didn't pay attention to that story too well. But there was this cap that they had cited that said that's a fairly good cap. We'll think about increasing it if we hit that number. And then like a few hours later, they increased the number, and reporters were like, "Why'd you increase the number?" And it was very obviously because like AOC had tweeted like, "This is BS. Like they should increase the number. It's stupid that they're sticking with Trump's number." So they're like letting the far left basically push them into positions that maybe they weren't prepared to jump into. But then again, at the end of the day, look, I don't think that any moderates are running the government right now. They pitched Joe Biden as this moderate, steady hand that was going to steer the ship and, correct our course and, make America great again, which is obviously what Trump already did. But that was their pitch to the left. And then Biden gets into office, however he got there. And now they're basically just implementing any radical policy like the AOC types want put in. They're not even really trying to find any kind of common ground with conservatives. Somebody said the other day, some politician, I don't remember who it was, on the left, they said, well, bipartisan support doesn't actually mean bipartisan support amongst politicians that are working in Washington, D.C. today. It doesn't necessarily need to be conservative politicians in Congress that support something. All bipartisan support means is that there are some conservatives that agree with it somewhere. So if Democrats have a plan and no conservatives agree with it in Congress, but the bill gets passed into law or something like that, they think that they can claim bipartisan support now if they can find one Republican somewhere in the country who agrees with the idea. So it could be the most horrible rhino. Another incident. Let's see here. Woman armed with a brush. Not sure that's something that needed to be reported.
Speaking of AOC,
Armed with a brush.
Did you see the video that she showed up in like baseball game in the park without mask on?
Oh no, I didn't see that. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, you don't need to wear a mask now. But of course the left thinks that you do. Did you see the video? Oh, I know you saw it because we talked about it, right? I think so. There was a video recently that was, what was it? Buttigieg. You know what I'm going to say? Buttigieg pretends that he bicycles to work every day.
Yes, I remember that.
But he was driven to work. I can't believe we didn't cover this on the show. I wish we had. He was driven to work in like an SUV by his people, I guess. And then he had the bike in the back. And somebody caught a video of him getting to the Capitol or getting to the White House or wherever it is that he's working now, jumping out of the car, running to the back, getting his bike out of the back, and then riding the last few yards or whatever it is to work to make it look like I'm riding every day to work. And I thought to myself, why wouldn't he just, like, let's say he's late to work one day. Why doesn't he just let himself be driven occasionally and just most of the time ride to work? And that's still pretty good. You're still kind of like saving the environment or where the left wants you to. But I think the reason he did it was because he's the kind of person that would want to be able to say, if he was running for office, every single day when I worked at this job, every single day I rode my bike to work, every single day, right? He's the kind of guy that would want to do that, like use that as a political point. But now he can't ever say that because somebody got that video, which I just love. I just love that somebody got that video. So now Buttigieg, I know you're listening. Stop pretending. Okay, we all know it's you can't use that anymore. You might as well just drive to work like everybody else. Although I wish I could ride my bike to work. Actually, honestly, I would love to ride my bike to work. You know why I can't ride my bike to work, ladies and gentlemen? Valeria, tell them. Hello?
Because you work from home?
Yes, thank you. God, why did that take so long?
I was like, is this some kind of tricky question? What is it?
Yeah,
What do I have to answer so he won't beat me later?
Don't say that. You're gonna get me in trouble. I would love to bike to work, but I can't. Oh, by the way, I heard a great. Okay, this is completely not related to anything we're talking about, but speaking of like trick questions, I heard a great fact about history. That's a nice little trivia IQ test. If you want to take the little IQ test, this may annoy the hell out of you, but I'm gonna give it to you anyway because this is a bit of a tricky question. In World War I, I think it was, British soldiers early on. British soldiers in World War I. Darling, are you listening to me? Or are you looking at your
Of
phone?
course I'm listening.
Why are you looking at your phone?
I was taking a picture of the super chat.
I want you to pay attention to this because I want to test your
I was taking a picture of the
IQ.
super chat.
I want to test your IQ.
I was taking a
too.
picture of the super
Let's see how
chat.
smart my wife is. So in World War I, the soldiers, the British soldiers, originally they didn't wear helmets, and there was a certain number. There was like pretty high death count from people getting hit in the head and lots of injuries, all kinds of stuff like that, right? People were getting injured like crazy, getting hit in the head. They're just shrapnel would hit them. People getting shot in the head, all kinds of stuff like that. I'm not sure a helmet would help people getting shot, but certain other kinds of damage it would help them. So they implemented the helmet.
Okay.
Naturally, they designed a helmet, that like flat one, you remember from World War I that the British wore. And what they found was a 5 times increase in head injuries after they implemented the helmet.
Because they were trying to test it.
No. They were trying to test it. Come on. So what, they were bashing their heads into things? No, that's not why. That's not why. I'll give you a minute. We'll finish this story, and then I'll see what you guys think. You can go ahead and write in the comments. Valeria, don't read the comments. I don't want you to get the answer. I want to make you look silly in front of everybody. No, there is a good reason why there was a 5x increase in head injuries after they implemented helmets, and we'll get to that after we finish the story. So, let's see here. When Biden administration resisted blah 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 blah. Okay. The Biden administration had resisted using the term crisis to describe the number of migrants crossing the border in record numbers, including many unaccompanied children, and 172,000 migrant encounters in March alone. That's crazy. Instead, referring to the situation as a challenge. On Saturday, the president made reference to the crisis that ended up on the border with young people, but according to Psaki, this had been misconstrued. Yeah, sure it did. Sure it was. The president does not feel that children coming to our border seeking refuge from violence, economic hardships, and other dire circumstances is a crisis. Sure. Psaki said during a press briefing on Monday, he does feel that the crisis in Central America, the dire circumstances that many are fleeing from, that is a situation that we need to spend our time and effort on. We need to address it if we're going to prevent more of the influx. So what are you going to do? You're just going to send a bunch of money down to South America? We've been doing that for decades. It hasn't helped. You know why? Because a lot of that money goes to corrupt politicians. And what are you smiling at?
Just smiling.
Yeah, you got
So
a little...
people won't think that I'm...
Oh, is that your
suffering.
not resting bitch face? Okay, very good. I thought you were laughing at something, some comment. All right, so let's see here. Yeah, and you've got the cartels that run a lot of these places down there, and it's just absolutely awful. Oh, hey, look, a mixed couple in an ad. How unusual. I always point out to Valeria. Whenever we see black people in ads, I go, Valeria, quick, look at the TV. Black people in a commercial. That's so weird. You never see that. Because every single commercial has black people in it now. I mean, Hollywood is so, they're just like, we need to push black people in our commercials because we're not racist. All right, let's see here. Oh God, stop doing that. Why is the webpage? I hate it when Fox News. Come on, You're like a multi-billion-dollar company. What are you doing? Like having a website that like we don't need that. We don't need that. Get more professional. All right, let's see here. He does feel that the crisis in Central America, the dire circumstance, we need to. Okay, but you're not going to be able to fix those countries. Stop trying to nation build. Focus on fixing our country. America first, right? That's what Trump did. Create prosperity for all of us. Put in a border. You know what a border does? You know what a great thing about a border is? Like, I feel actually sorry for immigrants that want to jump the border and just get over here and like make some money and do what they want to do here. I respect that. Like, I would do it if I lived down there. But I'll tell you what, you know what it does when you have a porous border between a poor country and a rich country? Not everybody is going to be able to even make that journey because it costs thousands and thousands of dollars. So what you do is you get the people that are sort of coming up already in their country, people that have the capacity to be successful, people who would otherwise maybe fight in a revolution, young men, people who would potentially maybe be successful and economically thrive and hire people in that country and improve the economy. Mm-hmm. They all come to America, right? It's what sometimes they call brain drain, where you have a country and all the smartest people from that country go to another country, like a more successful country because they want to make money. That country loses all their smartest people, and then they never improve. So keeping these borders porous and keeping inviting all of these immigrants, you're actually doing a disservice to these countries. And when she says we need to help those countries there so that people aren't as inclined to flee into the United States, that's the best you can do. Build the wall and stop incentivizing people to come here. The president's discussion of a crisis was meant to explain why he had not yet raised the cap on refugees that had been put in place by former President Donald Trump. Sorry, I should have had that up so you can see what I'm complaining about when the webpage shifts. Yeah, here it is. The president's discussion of the crisis was meant to explain we had not yet raised the cap on refugees that had been put in place by President Donald Trump. So that's it. It wasn't illegal immigrants that he was letting in. It's specifically refugees. There's a cap on refugees. See, okay, why does it do it? Fox News, whoever's making your website really needs to sort that out. That's really annoying. Biden had said in February that he would increase the cap to $125,000 for fiscal year 2022, which begins in October. Fellow Democrats were upset at the current cap of $15,000 that it was kept in place. Well, specifically like AOC and radical leftists. Hours later, the White House changed course, blaming confusion on behalf of the media. And I talked about this a little bit earlier. On Monday, Psaki would not say if Biden's decision was now to raise the cap due to Democrat pressure. All right. Anyway, point is that even the left can't keep their words straight because it's so obviously a crisis that they can't help but use that term. All right. Well, I'm done with that story, unless you have something to say, darling.
No, I have nothing to say. Let's move on.
All right. Let's move on. This next story is a doozy. But before we do, I should answer the question to the riddle. Why was there 5 times the number of head injuries after they implemented the helmet? Have you figured it out? Have you thought about it? Okay, this is why. It was because all of those people, previously when they didn't have the helmet, were just being killed. So you don't report a head injury of somebody who dies, you report them as a death. Obviously, you're not treating them for a head injury, they just died. So the helmets were protecting the men, and they were protecting them so well that they in fact had a 5-fold increase in head injuries because people were getting hit in the head and they were having injuries, but they weren't being killed. Boom. An amazing riddle, I thought, dealing with statistics and the way that people perceive statistics. And I don't know if it's really an IQ test. It's really just It's more like a test of like outside the box thinking. I don't know what it is, but that wouldn't really tell you if you're smart or not. But anyway, I think it's an interesting fact of history. It's just an interesting way that we perceive how things are. All right, darling Valeria, can you please read me the next headline?
Home of defense witness in Chauvin trial gets vandalized with a pig's head.
Yes, vandalized with a pig's head. This is a fantastic story. I mean, fantastic in that it's provocative, like in terms of like a news story, it doesn't get better than this. Nobody was hurt, right? But it does show, I think it very nicely illustrates how effed up leftists are and how unfair this trial is and how people seem to feel like it's totally acceptable to do something like this when, you know, people have just made up their mind that this guy's guilty, right? They think that Chauvin is guilty and that, you know, anybody who defends him is just pure evil. And, God, these people are awful. All right, let's see here. So this is what the front door of this guy's house looks like. Now, this is not where he lives, actually. So this is, what's this guy's name? Vandals leave severed pig's head at former home of defense witness in Chauvin trial. Barry Brode is his name. He's a former police officer. And Barry Brode was brought in basically to talk about whether or not the amount of force that Chauvin was using on George Floyd was warranted. Mm-hmm. And he said some things that people didn't like. And so people went to a house that he thought was his, and they sprayed blood all over it. And then they put a severed pig's head, I guess, on his doorstep or something like that. But anyway, but anyway, it's not his house. He had moved out of that house years earlier. Somebody else lived there, so some random person just had all their house just kind of vandalized by some thugs. Let's read here. Police officers over the weekend found a severed pig's head and blood splashed on and around a doorway of a home in California, formerly occupied by an expert who testified for the defense in the trial of former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin. On April 17th, a group of vandals dumped the pig's head in front of and splattered blood on the house in West Santa Rosa, the city's police department said. Photographs disseminated by authorities showed blood smeared across the home's garage doors and splattered on and around the front door. Officers arrived to find the front of the victim's house smeared with what appeared to be animal blood and a decapitated pig's head near the front porch. The Santa Rosa Police Department said in a statement. The home was once the residence of Barry Brode, I don't know how to pronounce that, a retired police officer who was called by the defense in Chauvin's trial in the death of George Floyd. Brode hasn't lived in the home for years, police said. He no longer resides in California. The cost to clean up the vandalism exceeded $400, making it a felony. The group fled after the current resident called the police around 3 a.m. About 45 minutes later, a large hand statue in front of the Santa Rosa Plaza Mall was vandalized with a similar substance suspected to be animal blood. The suspects also left a sign in front of the statue. The sign had a picture of a pig and the words "oink oink." Obviously, people who don't like police. Witness descriptions of the group that vandalized the statue were similar to descriptions of the group that vandalized the residence. Well, why don't you tell us what that description is? I don't understand. All right. Brode could not be reached for comment. Brode told the court in Minneapolis last week that the force that Chauvin used on Floyd, who was on the ground after resisting arrest for allegedly using a counterfeit bill, was justified. And you know what? Let's go ahead and watch that video, actually, because I have it here. It was actually a pretty mild-mannered guy, and just presenting his perspective. This is pretty quiet, so you may have to turn the volume up.
Just briefly overview your opinions in this particular case.
I felt that Derek Chauvin was justified and was acting with objective reasonableness, following Minneapolis Police Department policy and current standards of law enforcement in his interactions with Mr. Floyd.
In your opinion, was this a use of deadly force?
It was not.
And in your view of that use of force, what is your perspective on that?
That Mr. Floyd's level of resistance was objectively reasonable for those officers to do the techniques that they were doing. I felt that that level of resistance exhibited by Mr. Floyd justified the officers in higher levels use of force that they chose not to select.
In a situation where we have here, where you're actually physically on top of someone in a position which, based on your training and based on your experience and based on your knowledge, could cause positional asphyxia, that's a different context correct?
Yes?
And in that context, a reasonable police officer would at least acknowledge and consider the possibility that what they're doing is causing a problem, wouldn't they?
Where you would interpret what Mr. Floyd is doing while he's making the statements, and it appeared to me with that video that he was still struggling.
Struggling or writhing?
I don't know the difference.
Well, would a reasonable police officer on the scene consider whether somebody is actively resisting or writhing on the ground because they can't breathe?
I think it'd be reasonable for the officer to take what Mr. Floyd had been doing prior to that and still consider that he was struggling.
Mics are on. Okay, so
Okay, I'll stop swearing.
What that guy said was I think spot on. I've often thought that whilst watching the full video, the full police body cam footage, George Floyd had been resisting basically from the moment the officer approached the car. He was screaming, almost crying, saying like, "Don't kill me, don't kill me." The officer didn't have his gun out. The officer wasn't threatening him in any way. He was saying, "Don't kill me," almost as a kind of suggestion that, because in the popular media, there's this idea that police will kill black suspects, that he could sort of pretend to be a victim in this case. And so I think that the police officers from that very moment weren't really taking the things that he said seriously. He appeared to be a little bit messed up, either on drugs or something, or maybe he was a little crazy. But in either case, you couldn't really take what he was saying at face value. He would say things like, "I'm claustrophobic. I can't ride in the back seat. I need somebody with me." He was saying all kinds of weird stuff. He said, "I can't breathe" a number of times before police officers ever touched him.
Yeah.
He jumped into the car and then jumped out of the car, in the other side. He slithered from one side to the other to kind of evade the police.
Yeah.
He's obviously trying to get out of things. He was saying, "Can I sit in the front seat?" There's a lot of weird stuff that was going on there. So, it's what we would refer to in America as the boy who cried wolf. He had said a lot of things that seemed that he was lying, or that he was just saying things to try to get out of arrest. And so the police were, I think, under the impression that everything that he was doing was a lie, and everything that he was doing was just a means to desperately escape arrest. And so even if you are detaining him after he's been struggling for so long to get away and trying to slip out of custody, if he's struggling there on the ground, or if he's playing, if he's not struggling, you think, okay, well, maybe he's still trying to get out of it, or maybe he is playing dead or pretending to be subdued when he isn't. And so I think that these cops, and this, what this guy said was, I think, really profound. He said, "I think that they had every right to use more force than they did, and they actually restrained themselves, and they used less force than they had to." A lot of people point to the knee on the neck as a particularly vicious restraining method that was probably used, probably contributed to his death. To me, that's really unclear. Did the restraining method cause, in any way contribute to his death? I don't think so. I think had they just had him in cuffs in the back seat, I think that he would have died. That's my thought. I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't think anybody knows. Yeah, so did I wake you up? Sorry, buddy. I don't think anybody knows one way or the other. But at the end of the day, that's really a guess, because we know that the primary cause of death was the drug overdose. And so the whole trial to me is a sham. The whole trial to me is is ridiculous. But people so desperately want to believe that this guy intentionally murdered George Floyd, despite the fact that all these other cops were just standing around thinking that what he was doing was perfectly normal. And also, if you consider that the Minneapolis police officers are trained to restrain suspects in that way, using the knee to the neck method, and a lot of police officers around the country are trained to do that. If you want to blame anybody to say that the knee on the neck contributed to the death, you have to blame literally like every cop in the country who determined that for their department that is a reasonable way to restrain people. I mean, it's something that's used all over the world to restrain people. And is everybody now guilty of attempted murder anytime they've ever restrained anybody that way? I don't think so. I mean, I've never heard of anybody else being killed because of that particular restraint. I mean, if I were the attorney in charge of the defense, even though I'm not an attorney, I would have played video and posted photos and talked about the statistics of how many times officers around the world have used that restraint technique and how many people have died specifically because of the restraining technique. My guess is that it's something like 0.
You never know.
I'm sure I mean, look, at the end of the day, there might be a couple, but there was probably always some other kinds of circumstances around the death. It probably wasn't just that restraint, because I'm pretty sure that that's a restraint that's used specifically because it's effective and it's not deadly. All right, so anyway, we can see the viciousness of the left here, splattering blood on somebody's door, putting a dead pig's head. This is another reason why it's possible that if Derek Chauvin is convicted, which I don't think he will be, I mean, people are saying that they think that this is all fixed and that he will be convicted because it's fixed. I'm not so sure. I think that this judge is pretty decent. I don't know about the jury. The jury's a tough call, but to me, it's so obvious that the guy's innocent that I don't see how he could possibly be convicted. But if he is, by some scheming method, I think that you're going to have to call it a mistrial because of what was done here, trying to intimidate witnesses, because of Maxine Waters going around saying if he's not convicted, you have to go out and riot in the streets. I mean, basically threatening Minneapolis, threatening everybody involved in various ways. I mean, this is a mistrial. Mm-hmm. Easy. That's my guess. I mean, again, I'm not a lawyer, but that would be my guess. Anyway, do you want me to turn up the brightness on your camera?
I can, yeah. I can read the next story.
Yeah, and the final story, I believe, for today.
Yeah. Facebook is shutting down smaller apps.
You got to throw in a little bit of chit chat there while I'm brightening you up.
I'm Russian. I don't know how to chit chat.
All right. So yeah, a little bit of graphic imagery of a Facebook emoji hand flipping people off. So just beware. I'm going to switch to that. Oh, there we go. Not for the faint of heart, ladies and gentlemen. A bit crude. Anyway, this is a website called Android Police. This guy has written here about Facebook has been bullying third-party apps, Swipe and Simple Social. They're bullying them into oblivion. They're strong-arming these apps into shutting down. They've distributed cease and desist letters. So let's have a look at what's going on here exactly. This isn't competition in the sense that these apps are like their own social media apps. What they are is basically people have figured out that the Facebook app on your like Android phone is pretty terrible. It's like not a particularly good app. Yeah. Like it's much better on the desktop. So what they've done is they've developed interfaces for you to interface with Facebook that are much more pleasant. Their user interface or UI is much more pleasing than the official one from Facebook. And so they produce these apps that you can download and you can use, and they access all your information from Facebook, and they let you use the Facebook app or your Facebook page in a much more enjoyable way. And these apps have been around for a long time. I guess they're very popular. I've never heard of them, but apparently they're very popular. But Facebook is like, no, you're not allowed to use these apps that take Facebook information and make it much better. You're not allowed to do this. So they're shutting these apps down, which I actually think is great because it seems to me like we now have a stronger case to show that a lot of these social media giants are using their power and violating antitrust laws. They're actually acting as monopolies and shutting down other businesses that they don't like that are in some way competing with them. So let's go ahead and read this. Facebook's Android apps are rarely the best way to actually use Facebook on smartphones. That's why various third-party options have sprung up over the years. giving users better interfaces, smaller and faster apps, and just generally improving the experience. But it looks like Facebook is tired of being shown up. Two very popular rappers, what they're calling rappers, WRAPPERS, for the site. One is called Swipe, the other is called
Darling,
Simple Social.
So
Yes,
I had to get down to get something downstairs.
Oh.
Sorry. It's
okay.
important.
Kind of important? All right. Do you want to tell me what it is? All right. That's Valeria gone. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's something that will spoil. Sometimes she orders cat food and stuff like that. So, sorry about that. The best part of the show has just disappeared. That's terrible. According to messages from the developers of both apps, Facebook is sicking its lawyers on multiple apps that offer an alternative way to access the network beyond the official apps and the mobile site. The developer of Swipe for Facebook posted this message to the app subreddit. It is with a very heavy heart that the day has finally come to say goodbye to Swipe for Facebook. Today, I have received a cease and desist letter from some attorneys representing Facebook. My social media account on Facebook and Instagram have also been permanently disabled. Wow, that's kind of vicious. They were like, we don't like what you're doing. You're not even allowed on Facebook. I mean, that's just petty at that point, I think. Unfortunately, locking me out of tons of memories over the years and contact with many distant relatives. I believe this happened to numerous other developers as well, meaning the day of Facebook wrapper apps have finally come to an end. Because of all this, I've pulled both Swipe for Facebook and Swipe Pro for Facebook from the Google Play Store. The app will still function for those who have it, although I don't know how much longer. I mean, this is like a really vicious thing for Facebook to do. This is the. I mean, yeah, I don't know, but hopefully we can. I don't know. I say we. Hopefully, Americans can go after these social media giants for their bullying corporate behavior. They're just these monsters, right? That they basically just do whatever they think that they want to do. They have just so much power in America. It's unbelievable. Obviously, the thing that we have the biggest problem with here on Mr. Reagan is their ability to manipulate information and censor conservatives or ideas that they don't like. But I've actually heard about this before, not necessarily bullying other apps out of existence. But one thing that Facebook is kind of famous for, actually, is if there's an app that shows up that starts getting popular, that's an alternative to Facebook, like an alternative social media site. What Facebook will sometimes do, if it gets big enough, is they'll just give the developers of the new social media site, like whatever it is, like a few $1 million. Let's say we want to buy this new social media platform from you. And then once they buy that social media platform that may have tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of users, they'll just delete it. It's gone. Like that social media developer just got bought out and the competition was just crushed, right? And to me, and they don't talk about this, right? None of this is all done with privacy contracts and stuff like that, what do they call it, non-disclosure agreements. So nobody is allowed to talk about it because I think if they did, it would be very obvious that Facebook has been violating antitrust laws for years, actually. But this is just another indication of that. Let's see here. Forcing a developer to kill an app that's been popular for years is already pretty heavy-handed, but nuking said developers' personal social media profiles as well shows that Facebook isn't pulling any punches. Its aim appears to be shutting down all third-party tools for accessing the site. Yeah, they're just going after these people on a personal level, right? It's sort of like going after a business that in like the mafia back in the old days, right? They'd go up to a business, they'd go, "Hey, we don't like that you're buying your supplies from this other company. You should be buying from our company." And they go, "Oh, the other company's cheaper." And they go, "Okay, well, it'd be a shame. Be a shame if your daughter got her face cut up, because you're just buying from this other party. Because, I don't know what's going to happen to your daughter if you keep buying from that company. I mean, I just suspect, I don't know why, but I suspect that maybe something horrible would happen to your daughter." And they're like, "Oh, crap, okay." And then they have to buy from, the mafia's business. That's kind of what Facebook is doing here. They're like, oh, you third-party apps, you want to keep taking our customers and showing them how bad our app is and producing these raps, which I don't understand how they're so bad for Facebook, but whatever. I guess maybe they hide the Facebook ads, and they're like, "Oh, you're not letting us get all that juicy ad revenue. Therefore, we got to shut you down." So what we're going to do is we're going to actually ban you from Facebook personally. We're going to delete all your photos. We're going to destroy all your contacts. You're screwed, buddy. I mean, it's funny. It's like I don't even use Facebook anymore, but there are some contacts that I have on Facebook that I don't have anywhere else because they're just people I knew from like a million years ago. I've been alive for a very long time. And, but there are people I knew from a very long time ago, and, I don't necessarily contact them much anymore, but they're there on the app. And if I wanted to contact them, I could go look them up on the app and I could find them. And I really don't have any other way of contacting these people. And, Facebook is great for that. It's great for like having this, like sort of long-term record of your connections, and just reaching out to anybody at any time because like, I think pretty much every single person on the planet is on Facebook at this point. So yeah, it's a good resource for that. So if Facebook's like just deleting people's personal Facebook accounts because they don't like them and they don't like their business, that's pretty hard. That's pretty harsh. Let's see here. The developer of Simple Social, another popular Facebook wrapper app, had an even more alarming message for users. It was delivered via a pop-up notification for those still using the app after it was removed from the Play Store. Important message. Due to changes created by Facebook, Simple Social is no longer supported. You can continue to use Simple Social, however, you do so at your own accord. Your Facebook account may possibly be disabled temporarily or permanently, which is not under the control of Creative Trends. Sorry for any inconvenience that this may have caused. Thank you all for supporting. Thank you for all your support over the last 5 years. Have a great day. And I'm done with this article. And the wife is back. Hello, wife. What was it?
I'll explain to you later.
Oh, we're not allowed to tell the people.
No.
Okay.
Can I keep something in secret?
From the world?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Just not from me. I won't find out all your secrets. Yeah, okay, that's fun. Okay, yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I think Facebook is a disaster at this point in terms of their policies. I think Twitter's a disaster. They even say here at the bottom that Twitter's done kind of the same things. I think all of these things should violate antitrust policies. I mean, these companies, they just are destroying like the little people, people who are just trying to start up little companies, stuff like that. They're just like, I'm going to crush you because you're a minor threat to me. I mean, they're just vicious, nasty, and awful. But beyond that, I think the more important thing, of course, is that they manipulate the information that people get so that people don't have all the information they need in order to vote intelligently in U.S. elections. I think that's the bigger problem, of course. But this is just another example of how these major companies wield their excessive power in an unethical way. And Valeria, do you have anything to say about that?
No, I do not.
All right. So
Super chats?
we are done with the news. Yes, we're done with the news. Let's go ahead and read some of your questions and comments.
Okay. We already read some couple super chats before. There is the next one would be from Jonathan Khan. Kuhn.
Okay.
Nobody mentioned how tall each of you are yet. I'm guessing Mr. Reagan is 5'8" and Mrs. is 5'2".
5'8"? Jeez, no, I'm 5'10". 5'8"? Why would you think I was that short? That's a weird thing to think. I mean, you don't see me standing up ever. I'm never standing up. I do know a lot of very tall people. Like Gorka is I think he's 8 feet tall. My father is 6'2", which is really annoying because when I was a kid, I just thought I would, I was actually taller than most of the other kids in my class growing up. So once I was 14 to 15, or probably a little younger than, probably 12, 13, I was taller than everybody, or as tall. I was one of the taller kids. There are some kids, that are crazy tall, even when they're 12. I wasn't one of them, but I was of most of the normal sized guys in my class, I was probably the tallest, or one of the tallest. And then we hit 15, 16, 17, and all these guys got super tall, 6'2", and I stopped. I stopped at 5'10". I was like, what the hell's going on? I was like, so I do kind of consider myself short because actually most of the people that I know in my life over the years have been taller than me. Most of my friends are 5'11", 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2", around that range. But most of my family, at least on my dad's side, they're all really tall. I mean, everybody's like over 6 foot. Even the women, I think, are pretty tall. But my sister, I think, is 5'7" or something like that. But my mom's side of the family is all very short. Everybody's on my mom's side is short. Everybody on my dad's side is super tall. So, I wouldn't say super tall, but tall. So I got screwed over. I got the Scotland side. You think Scottish people are tall, but not my grandfather. He was he was short. My uncles are short. Well, we're all basically 5'10". My brother's 5'10". My brother Nick got lucky. He's 6 foot, so he got sort of normal man height. But yeah, no, I'm not 5'8". That's terrible. That was a super chat. Somebody paid money to call me 5'8". I'm offended. not that being a short guy is necessarily a bad thing. I think Tom Cruise is 5'6". But anyway, all right. Anything else?
Well, what about my height?
They're a little short on you too. You're what? You're 5'3"?
I measured myself.
Uh-huh.
I was 5'1". I was measured by a doctor. I'm 5'3". So I'm saying that I'm 5'2".
Well, if the doctor measured you at 5'3", you're probably 5'3". Well, we'll measure you after this is over. After this is over, we'll measure her. We'll get the exact height. Anything else?
Next super chat
Mm-hmm.
from Patriot Daniel.
Yes.
Just $5, not saying anything.
Oh, thank you very much, Patriot Daniel. That's excellent.
And this person who paid $20,
Huh?
Slayer Sigma Jetta,
Uh-huh.
and I think I saw him, I think it's him, complaining that, hey, answer your super chats, like while we were doing our
We answer the super chats at the end of the show. That's how we do the show. So don't put in super chats until the end.
Do you think that at some point conservatives must stop talking the supposed moral high ground and react with violence of their own?
No, I don't think
It's
violence.
the only language the left understands.
No, I don't agree with
If
that.
they want a war, why not give it to them?
Look, at some point, if enough, if the left acts egregious enough, if our civil rights are being violated in a significant way, then obviously we won't have a choice. I think that if there is a violent revolution in America, it would have to be, to some degree, a military intervention. So we would have to somehow get the military on the side of the conservatives, and then they would just remove Biden from office. I think that's how it would go. I don't think that there's a possibility of having like a war between militias in America and the U.S. military. I don't think that's going to be happening. I certainly don't think a militia is going to come in and take out Joe Biden. I don't think that would be respected by most people in America. I think what would have to happen is there would have to be some military leader that would have people in the White House removed, and we would have somebody else put in place temporarily until we could have a proper election. That's how I suspect such a coup would have to occur. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibilities coming up in the near future. I don't want to see that. I would not want to see that. I would want to see a free and fair election in 2022. I'd like to see us reclaim Congress, the House of Representatives and the Senate. And then I don't want to see the court packed, the Supreme Court packed. I want to see everything sort of remain fair and honest and, as much as possible. Now, will that happen? I don't know. It's tough to say. Democrats are in charge right now. I don't trust them at all anymore. I used to say that, you could trust Democrats to some degree because they're not going to go so far that people are going to recognize that they're totally corrupt. They're not going to go so far as to commit criminal acts that could put them in prison. Now, I'm not so sure about that. I think that I wouldn't put that past them. So I am a little bit more concerned, and I do think that it is possible that there will have to be some kind of retaliatory action by the military if things go too far. I don't think we're there quite yet, but it's getting closer than I would have ever imagined would happen in my lifetime. So that's kind of scary. But at the end of the day, I think that the other thing that's a little bit of a problem is you have to be able to convince enough Americans that corruption is happening. What the Democrats are very good at, I think, is they're very good at lying in a way that convinces enough people that people still think that the Democrats are like honest and they're like the good side. They're like the good ones doing the good stuff. You know, yeah, if you talk to Democrats, like I've been replying to one guy that has been writing me a lot lately, who's a very close friend of mine, and it's just amazing to me that people still believe Democrats are honest and that Trump is like such a bad guy and all this kind of stuff. I mean, it's just obviously they're wrong, but it doesn't matter how much evidence you put in front of them. It doesn't matter how much logic and reason and rationality that you put in front of them. They are convinced that MSNBC and Rachel Maddow are telling them the truth. It's just crazy. All right.
Next super chat
Yeah.
from Stephen Rhodes.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Biden reminds me of that Governor Mel Brooks in Blazing Saddles.
I've never actually seen Blazing Saddles, but I'll watch it. I'll have to watch it. My mother loves that movie. She's just one of her favorite movies. I remind you of the governor. Hold on,
Biden. I think Biden reminds.
Oh, Biden reminds.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to check that out. I thought you said that.
It's Biden.
Okay, Biden reminds you of the governor of Blazing Saddles. I'll have to watch that. My mother and my father, they love that movie. They always try to encourage me to watch. I never have, because I don't know. It seems like silly. I don't really love Mel Brooks comedy. I mean, when I was a kid, I liked Spaceballs and I like some of that stuff, but it's not really my kind of thing. I never watched The Producers. I should watch Blazing Saddles. Everybody says it's like this fantastic film, so I should watch it. Chris K writes, Biden will be taken out by Alzheimer's and not a military coup. I think Biden's already been taken out by Alzheimer's. I mean, the thing about Biden is he's already out. When I say there's a military coup that's going to take Biden out potentially if things get too bad, taking Biden out of the White House would just be a symbolic gesture. Biden doesn't control anything. Biden is the mechanism by which other people control the American people, control the office of the presidency. They just put papers in front of him and have him sign them. So he is in control in the sense that he's physically in control because he holds the pen. But beyond that, no, it's other people making the decisions. So the power would be taken away from those people, really, is what would be happening. But the symbolism would be taking Biden out of office. But yeah, he's either going to die or he's going to have to step down before there's a military intervention. If we ever get to that point, it would probably be Kamala would be taken out, or in 4 years when there's another Democrat that's illegitimately in office, they would be taken out. So we'll have to see what happens, which I assume will be Kamala anyway.
Yeah. It's a shame.
All right. Anything else?
No, we're done for today.
That is it. We're done with the super chats. Well, is there anything else that anybody wants to say?
No, nobody's saying anything.
If Larry wants to go. All right, guys. Well, that is it for Monday. Hold on. Otaku Magnet says, did you see the judge saying that the jury can't take anyone's gender preferences into account? And with that, his insistence of not sequestering them raises red flags. What? No, I didn't hear gender preferences. It's a weird thing. Does anybody have weird gender preferences in the Chauvin trial? I'm actually not watching the Chauvin trial intentionally because I don't want that to eat up all my time. I got too much other stuff that I'm doing. But and I'll just I watch the highlights and I read the articles about it and stuff like that. But I don't want to get caught up in it. I know if I focus too much on it, I'll spend all my time on it and it'll just waste all my time. It's also kind of boring. And I already know, I already feel like it's obvious from the video footage what happened, and this guy's innocent. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go. We will be back tomorrow. Same toxic time, same toxic channel. We are the least professional show on YouTube. Oh, no, there's another one. Andrew Beerwort, love you, man. He says, I'm 6'2", my brother's 6'5". Across the street, one boy was 6 foot, 6'8", and 7 foot. Yeah, it's always tough when there's people taller than you because you do feel slightly inferior. I mean, I was lucky because I was kind of born with this like obscene level of confidence, which I don't think is even remotely appropriate for me, but whatever, I've got it. So it made my life a lot easier.
One time somebody told me, like a guy, I think, at work, he was like, I never seen anybody smaller than me. I was like, have you been in Koreatown? I'm like, man, I'm like,
Yeah.
I see so many people like smaller than me, and you're telling me that I'm the smallest person you've seen? Give me a break.
We invited that girl to the party the other day, and she was very tiny. She's smaller than you. She's probably 5'9"
Yeah.
or something like that.
I'm like, really?
There's a lot of girls smaller than you. You know what was really funny, actually? When we ended up meeting, oh gosh, who was it? What's that girl's name? She's pretty famous. She's on YouTube. She's got a YouTube channel. She's pretty famous. She's a men's rights activist. Gosh, why can't I remember her name? I love this woman. She's a good friend of mine. How can I not remember her? Anyway, whatever. Valeria ended up meeting her for the first time, and she had been following my social media and following me on Instagram and stuff, and she'd followed Valeria's Instagram. And when she met Valeria, she was like, "You are so much tinier. I thought you were like 5'10". she thought you remember that? Yeah. She thought you were like really tall, and I'm like, well, it's photographs, and you're really skinny. So in photographs, you can look much, much taller. Your proportions are that of a tall person. I'm getting contacted. There's a lawyer who wants to maybe work with me on trying to deal with my social media stuff. So anyway, I should respond to her. Yeah, somebody says I'm drinking toxic Coke products. It's true. I've talked about this on the show before. I don't ban organizations. I don't stop buying product from major organizations just because the top tier happens to be leftist. I don't do that because I know so many people who work at Coca-Cola are in fact conservative. So I'm not going to try to destroy the company just because of some top management. I'd love them to disappear. Valeria's laughing because apparently somebody said something funny. What is
No,
it, Valeria? Go on.
You said I'm not trying to destroy the company.
Well, you know what I mean. Like, as a nation,
don't.
if we all stopped drinking Coca-Cola, it would
Please.
obviously destroy the company.
It's okay, America. They're like in the whole world, this Coca-Cola and their products. So even if the whole America was stop buying it,
That's
I
true.
don't think
That's
there's
true.
gonna be.
I was in
any
Bulgaria
harm.
once, and I was drinking
Oh, Bulgaria was who?
one of my exes, and all right, enough. And I was drinking this like it was like a peach puree. It was like a peach puree, absolutely delicious drink. It was called Cappy. And I'm drinking this peach puree drink, and I'm like, this is amazing. I'm like, what? Why don't we have this in America and stuff like that? I'm like, is this like a local product? I'm looking at the back, and it's like a Coca-Cola product. I was like, no friggin' way. It's like Coca-Cola goes around the world. They find out what local drink is popular, and they just buy it and they brand it in some way, and they sell it and they make money. I mean, they're a smart company, despite the fact that the top management is a moron. But most of the people that work at the company are, I think, probably decent, hardworking, regular folks. All right, that's it for us. We will see you guys tomorrow. Same toxic time, same toxic channel. You want to say goodnight?
Good night.
All right, goodbye, everybody. Toxic masculinity.